Starting this Friday on Real News Radio, we expand our programming to include a new show, The Veteran Next Door. Quality edutainment like you've never heard it before. Stories of real veterans, told by the veterans themselves, and hosted by Knoxville resident Randy Baxter. Tune in this Friday at 12 p.m. for The Veteran Next Door on Real News Radio, broadcasting from realnewsradio.live.
Another nation. It is not just one of the family of nations. This is a nation with a great mission to perform for the benefit of liberty-loving people everywhere.
That we shall be as a city upon a hill.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country.
You've come to fight as free men. Free men you are. What will you do without freedom?
Proclaim liberty throughout all the land.
In one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. You gotta fight for your right. Can you dig
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Real News in the Morning. I was waving to my beautiful wife again over there. How's everybody doing this morning? It is a Monday morning. I'm pretty sure it's June 15th. That means it's 6/15/2020. That's the date for today. That's right. It's a funny joke right there. My name is Mr. Henry. Welcome back. David Sean Thompson sitting over there. Buddy, man. New stuff, Real News growing, Real News family growing, the Real News community going. We got other shows coming in here. Before I even go into what this new show is, I'm going to introduce my boy David Sean Thompson because he's the one that really did 100% of the background work to put this stuff together. And I'm telling you, man, like this is part of the the trajectory, the scope, if you will, of what Real News is hoping to put together, man. Just bringing in people from all across the community, all across the state, all across the United States, if you will, just forming an umbrella network, man, of just like interesting stuff, interesting conversations, topics, news, all that stuff, buddy. Hey, David Sean Thompson, how you doing this morning, man?
I am feeling fantastic, and I am very excited for the new show, which isn't a new show to me. All those episodes were made by a good friend of mine, Randy Baxter, Knoxville resident, great guy, and produced by me from way back in the day. Not way back in the day, but at least a few years ago. Great stories, as the commercial said, about veterans as told by the veterans themselves. And also, it's kind of a history show. It's fantastic. It's kind of one of those like overproduced. I say overproduced like that's a negative thing. Like it's a positive thing. It's like an overproduced radio theater history. There's sound effects and background music and all kinds of fun stuff. But I hope everyone enjoys it. It'll be starting a little bit after our Friday show this coming Friday at noon. Looking forward to that. And I think at some point this week, we're actually going to talk to the host, Randy Baxter, and he can give us more info about the show and get you all excited about it. But until then, we have a whole great week of Real News morning shows prepared for you that are going to be excellent. So hope everyone had a great weekend and enjoy the show today.
And Kelly's already saying on Facebook, so cool, David S. Thompson, that radio voice is the bomb. Actually showing a little emoji bomb right there. That is awesome. I'm telling you, honestly, when I was listening to this last night, I really didn't even recognize it was him at first. And then I had to listen back and I was like, all right, I'll pick it up on it now. There's those little shiny idiosyncratic, things. Here's the headlines here before we get into Greatest Audience in the Nation appreciation segments. Don't want to bury any of these leads. Nashville bars are fined. Yes, Kid Rock's bars have been fined. The story coming out of Nashville, essentially, we'll get to that in just a second, is there was about 1,000 to 3,000 people marching in the streets just outside some of these bars and locations that were fined. So there's a little bit of confusion here as to who do these laws apply to. We also have a meme review coming up. But just like there's so much stuff going on, man. There's so much stuff going on right now. I was actually talking to family members about this over the weekend. We have a family text chain, and yeah, some of the screenshots from the family text chain could make news themselves, I'm pretty sure. But we were all sort of in agreement, like just 2020 is moving too fast. Nobody can figure out where they belong. Nobody can figure out what's going on. Nobody can figure out. It's like 2020 is just every month there's something new, but it's also making for very, very strange bedfellows. 2020 is, and I think it's causing some people to really give a second thought as to what is it that I believe again? Let me figure that out. Also, the last thing we're going to touch here today is don't justify delusion. And I'm saying that right now, man, because I do still believe that on multiple fronts, people are being called into conflict when I don't think they should be. I don't think we should give into that temptation, right? I don't think still, and you'll see what I'm talking about if you want to scroll down further in the notes section here, man. There's one in particular that's red highlighted. Again, notes at the top of the link there, Evernote section. I do not think we should give in to wanting to enact violence upon another individual, because I'm fairly certain that's kind of what's being asked for. I'm fairly certain there's a lot of movements that are going on right now that some might deem to be delusional, which is just fine right now because they don't really have a boogeyman yet. They don't have an enemy to fight against. I guess what I'm really asking for is just don't give them that enemy. Don't justify that delusion. Because if it's a small, seemingly contained situation as it is right now, I don't know, man. I'm being a little bit vague, but that's also purposeful because it could apply to more than just one thing. Hey, greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment, though, before we get into local news. How y'all doing? What do you need help with? What are you struggling with? What do you need prayer concerns for? Any small businesses in general that are trying to innovate, trying to reopen the economy, stuff going back on? Let us know what's going on in your life, how you been. We'll get to those later on in the show. Let's go ahead and hit the local news section here. First headline, Fox 17. It's coming out of Fox 17 here. Kid Rock's Honky Tonk. Gabi, have we ever been to the Honky Tonk? I don't think we have. No, Gabi's shaking her head. No, we have not been to the Honky Tonk. I don't even know where this is located. Gabi, we need to go to the Honky Tonk. She gave me a thumbs up. That's right. We're going to the Honky Tonk this weekend so I can know what I'm talking about. But Kid Rock's Honky Tonk and 13 other businesses now receive citations from Metro Public Health Department. This happened over the weekend. The Metro Public Health Department has issued citations to Kid Rock's Honky Tonk and 13 other businesses for being out of compliance with public health emergency orders. Now, out of compliance is a little bit broad. It is. That's valid. But 13 other businesses also violated. Here's Dr. Michael Caldwell, director of Metro Public Health Department, issued citation to Kid Rock's Honky Tonk Bar for being out of compliance with Public Health Emergency Order 6. Public Health Emergency Order 6. Now, this citation in particular was because they serving people that were seated at the bar for not observing proper social distancing inside the establishment. Dr. Caldwell said that he visited, so I guess this doctor actually personally visited Kid Rock's Honky Tonk after receiving a complaint about the bar on Friday night. And if you're following along with the Evernote section, I highlighted that portion in particular because this is, what's the best way to put this, Sean? This is usually how these citations come about, and I'm not just talking about in Nashville. I mean, you'll see some other situations that are going on in New York City. I think there are about 25,000 plus complaints that were made. It's usually following up on complaints from other individuals. Now, whether this is a Karen trying to be a Karen or whether this is an individual trying to protect the safety of others, I don't know. I'll let y'all make that call for yourself. But I just highlighted it again because that's usually where, if you boil it all the way down to the 6th, 7th level analysis, if you get across all the other minutiae as we try and do in real news, this is usually what people tend to focus on. Well, how did they get that citation? Were they randomly walking? Was this doctor randomly walking across Kid Rock's bar because he so happened to also be participating in some of the protests that were going on? And he was just like, maybe I'll check this out, see if they're violating. I don't think that's how it happened. He probably was following up on this. Citation was issued on Saturday, and a decision on the amount of the fine will be made during the court appearance. Now, health officials cited 13 other businesses on Friday for being out of compliance. You can see those 13 other businesses in the story at hand there if you follow the Fox 17 article. Now, here's what the juxtaposition comes in. The next story coming down from WATE. Nashville, thousands joined March for Justice through downtown Nashville on Saturday. Thousands raising their voices, calling to defund the police for a complete overhaul of the policing system. Protesters took to the streets in Nashville Saturday, walking miles in public view, chanting for change. Quote, this is coming from an individual, an activist around there, saying, it's about George Floyd, police brutality, wanting to see changes in police here in Nashville. It's about housing. It's about juvenile justice centers. It's about get your knee off my neck. I almost slipped a bad word there, but to get your knee off my neck, they said. Now, if you'll see, Shine, if you're pulling up that story here, it's a WATE story. You can actually see the link in the Twitter, the tweet that's included there, or you can just go to the show notes yourself, where it says about 1,000 Black Lives Matter protesters took a knee on Broadway for 8 minutes and 46 seconds in honor of George Floyd, who died, a Minneapolis police officer when kneeling on his neck for that amount of time. You can see in the tweet there a photograph of the number of individuals that were on Broadway. Now, there's a few other There's a few other quotes in here from some of the other protesters who are out there. This is coming from Kristen Mitchell, and she said, ever since I was a child, I've been taught as a person of color, whether it's cops, whether it's teachers, whether it's principals, whether it's anybody in authority, they are more likely to chastise you. You will suffer worse punishments than your peers that aren't of color. So I've been taught to be on my best behavior. Now, scroll down a little bit more here, and you'll see the Metro PD. Now, this is what really sent people off. I'm just telling you how it happened in Nashville. I don't know if anybody even spoke about this in Knoxville over the weekend. I don't even know if it necessarily matters across the state. But people in Nashville were getting a little bit perturbed, dare I say, in part because of this tweet that's down there linked at the bottom of this story. Metro PD sent out this one. Thank you to the few thousand persons who made their voices heard downtown this evening. One arrest. They ended up citing the person that was arrested for refusing requests to move from the middle of a Broadway after thousands of other protesters had moved on. So you also saw some stories over the weekend about I don't know. Sean and I knew about this on Thursday night. We didn't want to say anything about it on Friday because we just didn't think it was going to be a story. And it turned out to develop not to be a story. But you heard about some sort of Chaz element or Chaz style situation wanting to move into Nashville as well. Well, suffice to say, that did not exactly happen. There were some people that sat around there. But Governor Lee and the local authorities have made abundantly clear that, hey, man, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And specifically on certain segregated areas of steps going into the Capitol building, it's not going to be a thing there either. Now, let it be said here, man, that, I mean, frankly, when it really gets down to it, I personally, not even personally, I think it should be an objective statement. Nobody should have a problem with, say, sit-in demonstrations. Nobody should have a problem with civil disobedience. I think the establishment for that being an effective tool in American history has been very, very well established. I get in conversations, especially as of late, as to sort of the violence that came out of Dr. King's assassination, and people want to say that led to the Civil Rights Act, which is in part correct. It led to the 1968 Civil Rights Act, which is what Title IX and Title X. And don't get me wrong, Title IX, primarily dealing with housing discrimination, is a massively important document. Title X is a bit of a rebuttal to that. Title X does something entirely different, but Title IX and Title X, very important. But 64 was the main civil rights document that we all want to that we should be quoting back to. 64 was the one that established you cannot discriminate against a particular individual. This was the one that enshrined the legal understanding, as far as the best of my knowledge. 68 is what came organically out of that. Now, 64 had a lot of civil disobedience involved in it. Back to the story at hand, because I'm ranting just a little bit here. When the Metro PD sent out something like this, thank you to the few thousand people who made their voices heard in downtown this evening, I think that was Metro PD recognizing what has always been in this country, civil disobedience. And recognizing even more so, just the simple act of protest is not something that is protected by the First Amendment. It is a God-given right. I want to stress that one more time. These Bill of Rights, man, is not something that is articulated. It's not rights that we have because the government told us so. It's not rights we have because some collective identity of human beings said that, like, by the way, we should all agree that we have these rights. No, man, it's greater than that. It comes from our Creator. And if you don't want to believe in the God sense, that's fine. You don't have to go that far with it. It comes from something bigger than yourself, bigger than the collective identity of all of us. The right to protest is one of those. Now, importantly, though, people aren't going to like to hear this, but people have made reference several times to the idea that, like, look, man, no right is absolute. You can't scream fire in a crowded room. You can't, defame someone's name without having some sense of repercussion from it. The Second Amendment is not completely absolute as of right now. Now, if you want to ask my opinion on whether or not you should be able to buy a tank, I've been honest about that before. I mean, I don't know, man. If you have the money to do so, I mean, what? I don't really see a problem with that. But people in Nashville over the weekend were becoming a little bit confused when the Metro PD was sending out this tweet, like, thank you to the few thousand people, and comparing that on the very same day with 13 other businesses receiving violations and citations. And I think some people were just trying to figure out, okay, man, like, what's the status quo? What's the objective? What's the baseline? Like, what is actual violation? I just don't get it. And part of the theme for today, as I kick it to some of those Facebook comments here in a second, as I go to Sean for some commentary as well. Part of the theme for today, I think, is just trying to figure out the respect for any institutions. Do we have any faith in these institutions left? I mean, frankly speaking, Shine turned me on to a fantastic article over here over the weekend. It's about halfway through the show notes that I'm eventually going to get to with a lot of this stuff today. The idea being from the week published this headline: voters will not accept the 2020 election results no matter who wins. If we just lose entire faith in this whole experiment, in the institution in general, does any of it matter? Do the violations even matter? Does law enforcement even matter? Do you know what I'm saying? I think other people are just genuinely trying to ask that question right now. If there's no faith left in the stories, then what do you do? And again, people are starting to question like the fundamental precepts as to what is protest and what is not protest. And Sean, before I move into some of the sort of funny things, because there's a bunch of heavy stuff I want to get to today, or that we probably have to get to today, man. I don't know. Let me hit some of these Facebook comments first. Kelly says, I'm all for peace and peaceful protest. Peaceful civil disobedience is important, in my opinion. Daniel said, you only have the rights you're willing to defend or have others willing to defend. Yeah, it's valid. Daniel Snowden also said the government is only going to put up so much, no matter what innate rights you have. Only going to put up so much, no matter what rights you have. I understand that. I do. Now, I would say, you know, some have been articulated in response that insisting upon rights without acknowledging responsibilities is not freedom. It's a bit of adolescence. Insisting upon rights without also acknowledging that there's major amounts of responsibility that come with that power vacuum. It's not exactly. Whatever. I'm rambling. Shine, anything you want to throw in there, buddy, by the way, before I get to some of this meme review, because we might need it to be a little bit lighter before we go on.
Well, I do want to say, even though there wasn't like a Chaz chop or whatever it is nowadays, just because there isn't some commie encampment down in Nashville, there were people who stayed on the property all weekend.
That's true.
And I saw people on Twitter like asking people to go down there and spend a couple hours. Like people are rotating people through so that people stay down there because they're afraid if they lose the ground, they'll never be able to get it back or whatever. People calling for bringing those people food and things like that. But as far as I know, the Tennessee Highway Patrol did not let them set up structures. That's where they drew the line. They allowed them to sit there, stand there, whatever, but they couldn't set up tents. I think Saturday afternoon there were tents, and they were quickly dispatched, gotten rid of, thrown away.
Hey,
but that's all I got on that. I don't even have any opinions on it, except for I'm glad there isn't a Chaz in downtown Nashville, and I'm glad that the protests were actual protests and not riots. That's cool. Yeah. Very excited about that.
Yeah. Look, man, part of if you want to know for real news audience, why we detest Marxist philosophy so much in this program, I don't even know why I would have to. Shine's probably in the camera right now thinking to himself, like, why would you make such a statement? I don't know, Brett, because I feel like at some point someone needs to say, like, look, man, Marxist philosophy, communism in general, has been responsible for the largest death toll in human history. If you can find a version of communism that has been kind to minorities, show it to me. Because it's not there.
Or the majority.
Or the majority, right?
Or anybody in the surrounding countries.
Right, dude. Right. Right. Because when we said on the program last Friday, I don't know if somebody picked up on this, but when we said in the program last Friday that, like, you know, arguably some of the most racist people in the country right now are some of these commies that are running around throwing out Marxist ideology. I don't know if anyone really picked up on that, but I'm just saying, like, look in the history books, bro. See what has happened to minority populations under this ideology. And tell me that it is not the most oppressive version of anything you could think for a minority in the history of human civilization. One of at least. I think we can all at least agree upon that. Matt Burns says, by the way, freedom equals vigilance. The media's virus need to be called out. Shine, buddy. Let's jump to a few meme reviews, man. Maybe 10, 15 minutes of this, and then we'll get some other stuff. But one in particular, the reason why I set up this meme review segment here is because I've been seeing people throw this around, and for the life of me, I cannot understand what this thing is trying to say. That first one, judging a protest but not judging a cop, is the first one in the meme review section there, Shine. I cannot. Somebody in the audience help me out here. I was talking to my family about this over the weekend. I just don't get it. I don't understand. Yeah, I can throw it up on the screen there. It's a guy holding a let me know if it doesn't work on your end, Shine, but I mean, hopefully I linked these. It's all coming from my Google Photos section here, so hopefully it works fine. Okay, so this part, maybe I'm just trying to be too logical about it. I don't exactly understand, but it says judging a demonstration by its most violent participants, but not judging a police force by its most violent cops is the language of the oppressor. Now I'll pause for a second so people can catch up to the logic behind this, because I'm trying to break this syllogism down. If A plus B is supposed to equal C, what is this meant to promote? Is it meant to promote that we should be judging demonstrations by its most violent participants? Because it sounds like the person holding this sign is saying you should be judging police officers by its most violent cops. So on the inverse of that same syllogism, C equaling B plus A, then it would end up being that I should then be judging the demonstrations by its most violent participants. Or conversely, should I not be judging either one of them by their most violent participants? And if that's the case, then what are you protesting about? Do you understand my conundrum here? I'm missing something, clearly. Clearly I'm missing something, because I'm not supposed to judge either by their most violent, then I don't know why you're holding a sign. And if I'm supposed to judge the police by their most violent, as well as the demonstration by their most violent, then I don't. Clearly, that's not what he's saying. He's not saying judge these demonstrations, because they've been trying to separate themselves from the most violent. Or maybe he is saying judge the demonstrations by the most violent. I don't know. Maybe he's just simply saying for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Maybe that's what as simple it is. Anybody else got a different take on this, though?
Meme review.
Meme review.
People can't understand your sign. You get a 0. Meme review. Bye. That's it.
That's that meme.
I can't understand your meme. So you lose. Meme review. I'm sorry.
Oh man,
you lose.
All right, let's go to the second one, man. Selecting 2020 difficulty. This one is just funny to look at for a half second. Anybody that plays video games know what's about here. Before you start a video game, you select the difficulty here. It's either easy, medium, or hard, or it's going to be 2020, bro. I don't know who's going to select that 2020 difficulty, but it is what it is.
See, this is much better. I understand this meme. I'll take medium, please. Very good. Still not super funny. I only kind of chuckled, but at least we understood what was happening way better than the first one.
Oh, man. Daniel said in Facebook, they're protesting to get accountability for bad cops. Granted, valid, but the syllogism also implies that they should be getting accountability for bad protesters as well. I mean, as long as we're on the same page with that, I guess. Daniel Weatherby said, -1 mean review. That's right. Hey, next one here. This is another good one for all my libertarian buddies sitting out here. It's the left sees Nazis, right sees commies. And I think this is a great one. This is a little bit of the theme for today's show, too. The left sees Nazis everywhere. The right sees commies everywhere. And then good old Tyler Durden down there in the bottom, man. All he sees is a nation of brainwashed idiots who have fallen for the divide and conquer agenda.
Boom. I like this template. I think you could do a lot with this template.
Right?
That bottom square could be a lot of things. I like it. This is a good meme template. I'm giving this one a solid 8, bro.
Yeah, man?
Yeah. 8 on the everyone sees Nazis and commies. That's
right.
That is my experience. I feel like it's my experience, so that makes me like it more.
I'll give it a 7.5 for relatability.
Yes.
Let's see here. I don't know, man. You can jump past a couple of the other ones if you want to. AOC has a Chaz farm crying there. She's crying outside the Chaz farm, which is from somewhat of a funny one. They basically took her outside of the I don't remember what that was referencing. There's a Black Panther one there with the new Black Panther movie.
Hey, that's still when they had plants on the farm. They're
Do they
no
not
longer.
anymore?
No, a homeless person came through and did a Indian dance, stomping dance on all of them. And they had to chase him out. And he was saying that he would fight people in Mortal Kombat for control of
Was
the
that real?
farm. Yeah.
I saw that headline. I didn't even click on it because I thought it was just some type of bait stuff. Is that real? They really?
Yeah, I watched the video
Oh,
of
man.
him. He had a spear and he was dancing around him.
Goodness gracious.
That's real. Yeah.
Hey, here's another one I just love, man. The South Park creators, watching news right now, man. Matthew McConaughey just inhaling like a vacuum, inhaling that cigarette. Even the crack guy, just 2020 news. You're gonna have 5 seasons worth of material coming out of this one, man. Either that or literally the entire next season could just be one big "I told you so." All right, it's gonna be a massive "I told you so." There's another funny one here. I found this on the libertarian memes the other day. CNN's now adding Greta Thunberg to a "What's it like being black in America" panel.
I saw this
man.
one. It was perfect.
No, I know, dude. And just to give an idea of like where we are today, I found this in a Liberty meme Facebook page, and someone in the comment section, I think unironically asked the question, is this real? Because I think that's a little bit where people are, is this just so confusing. It's so ridiculous. It's so chaotic. Like, you wouldn't know. How would you know? Like, maybe CNN would do something like this. I don't know, man. There's possibly somebody that could spin something like this, but hey, man, Greta Thunberg. What's it like being black in America? I want to throw this one up here just because it's totally unrelated to news, but my wife sent me this one. So I feel totally comfortable showing this one, how females apologize. She's looking at me right now. I'm looking right over there in the car.
Grant, are you being honest about the origin story of this meme?
I totally am. God, did you not send me this one? She's shaking her head no. She said, no, I didn't send you that one. Oh, man, how females apologize. I'm sorry that you chose to make me mad. Fantastic. Let's see here. All right, Shine, this is another one. It's got a bad word in it, but I think it does help prove the point. Can we show a bad word one? What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, this one says you created a police state. And this one, frankly, is it's not even a little bit. It's a lot of it where I'm coming from right now. It's a picture of Bobby the character in King of the Hill, holding up a sign. And you've seen this meme. It's used for a lot of things. It says you literally created a miniature police state with closed borders, you dumb F words. And obviously saying if those kids could read, they'd be very upset at you. But again, I found this one from the Liberty meme page as well, the Libertarian meme page as well. I don't know if I'm missing something in some of this stuff or what's really going on here, but it's like I said before, man, there's a lot of strange bedfellows that are being made today. And I think some of these Chaz, Chop, whatever communities they are, I don't know, they have to see it too, right? I mean, they clearly have to see it. You're literally creating a miniature police state with borders to fight a police state with borders. I mean, the irony is palpable. So palpable in the fact that like it's what I said. It's where I think we're constantly vacillating between Brave New World and 1984, between no information and too much information, right? And I think that constant jumping back and forth, as Shine likes to say, the toilet bowl scenario spinning downwards. I think constantly doing that kind of lets everyone not just get away with, but we've gotten to the point where like no, we don't care about hypocrisy, and it's not even you can't even use it to prove a point anymore. It doesn't matter. Because it's literally, at this point, just about gaining and attaining power. I think it's just about filling power vacuums, power voids. And I want to... Which Chaz New do you want to go to, Sean? I mean... Yeah. Go ahead and show that. Yeah, I'm talking to Sean in my head here, by the way, y'all. The only reason why Daniel says Chaz isn't libertarians. Yeah, that's definitely true. But that's what I mean, though, Daniel. It's been interesting to see the cross conversation as to where people are falling with the Chaz communities. And just to prove one of the points, and one of the points being that protests, differing opinions. Shine, pull that up real quick. Someone in Chaz Choppa. I put Choppa because that's what I thought it was. Just stole one of the American flags. See that Twitter link? Okay, yeah. You don't necessarily need to hear the audio. You can play the audio if you want to. But, I mean, you can basically just see what's going on there in the background. Yeah. You can see the audio. You can say it again, Sean? Oh, scroll down a little bit, man. I'm not sure. There's that whole link is just him recording stuff all day long. I may have linked the wrong one. It's showing the one in my thing, but yeah. All right. So what's going on? If we'll find the it's in this link here somewhere, but it's basically a video of a person carrying an American flag with one around their face. And another one coming through. And then obviously 2 or 3 people run up behind them and grab the American flag and run off. Now, this would be the expected reaction. I don't think anyone should be surprised by that kind of reaction. And I say that just because, like, look, man, protest is not accepted in this autonomous zone. differing opinion is not accepted in this autonomous zone. Someone might come up and say, well, they've already declared that they're separate from the United States, so that would be flying the flag of the enemy. Really? I see communist flags flying all the time, man, all the time. I see flags of almost every single other country flying in this country. It should be the melting pot of ideas, should it not? But one thing we do know at an absolute minimum, that within these communities, protest is certainly not accepted. So now we have a situation, again, of irony living on top of irony, of where the protesters are not accepting protest. So what are they? They're no longer protesters. I'll let you fill in the blank of what they are. And Shine, let me get to the real point of the show here today, buddy, because I don't know. Pull me back here, man, Shine, a little bit if you don't want me to go too far on this, because this is part of what I'm hoping to get across today, this divide and conquer strategy of a little bit of what you're seeing right now. Of why I entitled some of the show that I did today of don't justify the delusion. It's this divide and conquer strategy. I'm asking, don't fall for it. Don't play into it. Don't justify delusional behavior. And before I describe what I think that means, here, Shine, open up that first photo there. Underneath the headline that says divide and conquer, don't fall for it, don't play into it. It says alleged calls for violence and retribution, reclaiming, the Buckle Up Seattle one. All right. So this was sent to me. I actually found it by somebody on Facebook that had just posted it out there as if this was, hey, look, man, they're fighting for their rights. They're getting the community back. They're, I don't know, man, almost in a strange quasi-libertarian sense of like they're defending their own property type stuff. And it struck me wrong. It hit me weird. I talked to my buddy Sean about it, and I think we're both on the same page about this thing. I mean, just read through some of this stuff. Buckle up, Seattle. Things could get interesting in Seattle on Monday as of today, right? A friend sent me this, not my post. So obviously you already know, like, what in the world, who is this coming from, man? Like, how is any of this substantiated? Quote, Seattle, you've been warned. You have till Monday, June 15th, to open up the Capitol Hill area. We currently, I don't know who we is. I don't, but whoever we is, we currently have 300 patriots signed up to march in your occupied area that will be armed and not afraid to do whatever's necessary to protect people that do not want to be caught up in this. You have armed guards that are requiring people to prove they belong there. This is a free country, and if you're looking to start a civil conflict, then no, we are ready. 100 truckers have signed up to shut down I-5 North and South, 520 and I-90 bridges, as well as Highway 99. You say you're diversified, but know this, the group is made up of truckers, construction workers, ranchers, farmers, 2 biker groups, and most veterans that have seen conflict. Like, dude, already, like, this is just dripping with bravado. This is just like, it just stinks, right? Keep in mind that you do not have the police to call. You so-called occupiers will be facing us with no one to call. Seattle, you have been warned. All right, so I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, but this clearly seems like a situation where you have a bunch of unorganized individuals that are just sort of like, I don't know, playing commie for the weekend, which is not a good thing, don't get me wrong. But you still have a bunch of seemingly, I'm trying to parse my words properly here, but let's be completely honest, seemingly slightly delusional individuals. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's delusional individuals that think they can create a separate city-state in the middle of a city-state. We just talked about the irony on top of irony that they're living in, that they're protesters that do not allow protesting. It's problematic. It is inherently self-refuting, and it will devolve unto itself. It is a regressive ideology. But if you give them an enemy to fight against, well, now all of a sudden you justify their delusion. It's the exact same claim that I made about these neo-Nazis back in the day. It's the exact same claim that we made about the KKK members back in the day. You want to know how they handle neo-Nazis and KKK members in Germany? Jewish individuals get together and sponsor a march for the dimes when they do their marches. It's beautiful. Jewish members of the community get together and say, hey, man, for every 10th mile you march, I'm going to donate a dime to your cause. And they end up marching like 20-something miles. So inadvertently, these Nazis are actually giving to Jewish-related causes. It's awesome. They hand out bananas and stuff while they're there, man, to keep up their potassium. I think it's great. But in some other sense, man, if you give them an enemy to fight against, if you justify their delusion, if you give them a cause to rally around, well, now all of a sudden, man, now it's not a bunch of just trust fund kids that are out there trying to figure out how to make this utopia. Now, all of a sudden, you take this disorganized chaos and you get some type of, like, I don't know, groupthink organizational structure at the top. They start garnering funds. They start getting more sophisticated, more intelligent, more educated individuals that are trying to help them do more about this. Now, all of a sudden, the thing in Nashville doesn't look anything like it looked like this weekend because they have a purpose. They have a motivation. They have a cause. They know what they're fighting against, right? Right now, man, if it's, I don't know, and maybe I'm totally off here, dude. I'm willing to admit that I'm totally off, but look at the next one. Go to the next one, Sean. Alleged calls for violence protection from Chaz coming from the left. So this is the other one that I saw. This is a Reddit post, dude. Who knows if any of this is true? And I'm saying more often than not, none of this stuff is true. But this is what the Reddit's posting, okay? Why Chaz needs to be armed. Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. The existence of this regime, Chad, is obviously in a clash with the interest of the state. And what usually happens when an unarmed, I'm going to fill in what I think they mean, when an unarmed regime or a political group is in a clash, who wrote this? See what I'm saying? Who wrote this? Is in a clash with the interest of the state, they get annihilated. Goodness gracious.
So
like
it sounds like someone whose English is not their first languages.
Dude, it sounds like you know what I'm saying, bro? It sounds like a Chinese bot or something like that. It's just like, this is my best attempt at English. Let me just like start fires and cause chaos over there. Like Chinese communists in 1927, French communists in 1940, German communists in 1933, the Gang of Four in China, yada, yada. History has taught us, quote, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun, or you could buy land from the state. So look, man, I mean, all I'm saying is that on both sides here, on both sides, this has become a major problem. On both sides, I don't think they're understanding that both sides are being played. Both sides are being played. Man, our boy Eric, who watches this show pretty often, he put this Killer Mike thing. Killer Mike's a rapper. He comes out of the Atlanta area. He's been arguably one of the more sensible individuals on most of these topics right now. To be honest, he's got a lot of Malcolm X rhetoric, which I think is, oddly enough, hear me here, I think it's fitting for a time like this. I know that sounds strange, but just please hear me for a second. Go listen to a little bit of Malcolm X and just understand what I mean when I say it's fitting for a time like this. I think both sides are playing the other one off the other ones. He posted something this morning. Eric posted a Killer Mike thing this morning that was basically making that same argument. Like, look, y'all, you're both being played here. You're both being played. And weirdly enough, Shine, go ahead and pull up this next YouTube video. It's Senator Josh Hawley. Now, I don't see this is going to get partisan here. I don't mean to get this partisan, so I'm just going to play about the first 30 seconds of this clip here, because the rest of it goes into the sort of, partisan nature where he's blaming the left for the entirety of everything. And Senator Hawley is, well, whatever, man. He is what he is, okay? He's got some history with some stuff. Yeah, go ahead and hit that from the very beginning, man. It's only about 10, 15 seconds. Go ahead and play it from the beginning, though.
We've got a lot of problems in America today. A pandemic, a recession, the surge of violence in our major cities, drowning out a nationwide call for justice and hope. And we have work to do in this body and in this city to solve these problems and to heed that call. And our voters sent us here to make things better, to rebuild, to heal. But that's not what we're doing. Now, for the last several weeks, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and their allies in the media and some professional political activists on a payroll have been trying to divide us against each other, to paralyze us, to stoke resentment of our fellow citizens and hatred of this nation that we call home. It's really remarkable if you think about it. Just a few short weeks ago, we were united in outrage at the murder of George Floyd. We were united in impatience for justice for his family. And nothing has changed about that. All people of goodwill still want justice to be done. I do. But the call of the marchers has been weaponized by partisans who want nothing more than to say that only some Americans really support equal justice under the law. Only some institutions of government are really committed to that cause. Only one party can be trusted to govern in good faith. Only one political coalition is righteous enough to rule over the other.
And you can stop there, Sean. And a little bit further into it, he ends up becoming, the speech itself ends up becoming slightly problematic because it not just becomes circular, it also becomes a little bit self-refuting, because then he pushes the idea that it's only just the left that wants a civil war. I don't think this is a left-right thing at all, frankly. I really don't think this is a left-right thing at all. I honestly, I just think this is just individual sects vying for power. I think it's just opportunists. I don't think it's true. True provocateurs don't care. They don't. Like a genuine provocateur does not care if it's left, right, blue, red. It doesn't matter to them. And we actually talked to a guy on Real News one time who made his living off of being a provocateur. I mean, literally, multi-millionaire. The guy was only 20-something years old. He developed a company where, I mean, it was the whole hashtag delete your Facebook account. I mean, this guy literally, he would hire individuals to go up to DC to meet him when Zuckerberg was out there testifying one day. And he hired a bunch of people out there with cameras, right? There's a camera guy over here and a camera guy over here and boom mics here and boom mics here, whatever else. It wasn't broadcasting anywhere. It wasn't even legitimate news. It wasn't even fake news. It was just a bunch of folks he hired to look like cameras. Well, then sure enough, because a bunch of crowd formed or whatever, who's this guy? What's this guy? Let's get his story, right? Fox News comes over and then CNN comes over and interviews him. And sure enough, man, this guy gets put on CNN and Fox News. But what they didn't realize is that this same company had hired protesters on both sides. I know it sounds like I'm spinning conspiracy theory here, man. I promise you I'm not. Like, this stuff happens all the time. These are true, genuine provocateurs. He hires protesters on both sides. He told us a story about like when he was ginning up some type of argument for the oil wells that were off the coast of California. He would hire protesters on one side, then he'd go to the oil companies and be like, look, man, you got a bunch of protesters here, but I can help you out. I can help you out so I can save this PR situation for you. Don't worry about it. I'll get a bunch of protesters. I know a bunch of people that support your cause. I know a bunch of people that will come out here and willing to march for you. And then he'll go back to the protesters on the other side. And I'll say, look, man, these oil companies, to get more people, you got to get more people going on your side too. Back and forth, playing them off each other. It's as old as human history.
I didn't know you interviewed Al Sharpton.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
The guy also runs several thousand fake Twitter accounts, several hundred, if not several thousand fake Facebook accounts as well. He makes sure to update them periodically so they look like real accounts. Man, this is real stuff, right? And that's what I'm saying. I think it would behoove all of us to understand that what Senator Halley here is saying correct. For the last several weeks, everyone, I would say, has been pitting us against each other. And all I really want to say here for today, man, I know there's a bunch of good Facebook comments I want to get to here as well, but C.S. Lewis had a fantastic quote, that the next one down, if you want to show that on the screen here, Sean. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. Right? Of all tyrannies, a tyranny exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. Again, because if you're exercising a tyranny for the good of the victims, it doesn't look tyrannical at all, does it? At least not until the very end. At least not until the very end. And then when that flood comes, you think you actually have a ticket on the boat. Well, you may not. You probably don't. A tyranny exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. And in my assessment, it usually is the most oppressive. Let me hit some of these Facebook comments here, man, because it's been a minute. But Kelly says, now we're afraid of the Rona is hiding in the hair of women. Really? Is that a thing now? According to UK, all women need to have a bob haircut. I haven't even heard of that. Let's see here. Eric says the left is more hypocritical than anyone, but I think they know it's the leaders aren't trying to create equality. Some of his followers are the same. They want power and control to silence their opponents. That's it. Yeah, Kelly actually posted a headline here. Women will need to cut their hair short. Goodness. Daniel said, I like the idea of secessionist communities. They're going to be imperfect. Eric said, Chaz flag will be similar to commie flag. Bet. Yeah, well, it does seem to be the same ideology, right? Eric went on saying they aren't a separate country yet, but don't be surprised if the socialists ran UN decides to recognize them as one. Now that would be, wow. Is that a thing? Are people talking about that, Shine? What Eric just said? They aren't a separate country yet.
I haven't seen anything like that. But as I've said on a number of cases during this whole weird time, things like that would only destroy the credibility of the UN, not raise the credibility of Chaz. You know what I'm saying, Grant?
Yeah. No,
How
I hear you.
do you give a country that's literally dependent in every way on the surrounding land? How could you call that a country with bunch of homeless people in 6 blocks? You know.
It's interesting though, man, because in some small sense, I mean, if you're looking at if you're thinking like 30,000 foot view, some call it conspiracy theory, call it whatever you want to. If you're talking about implementation of Agenda 21 or implementation of 2030 or whatever, if you want to sort of like shoehorn or glob onto a movement or commandeer or co-opt, whatever the term you're going to use, if you want to be able to get in while the getting's good, the UN might be looking at a situation like this. I'm assuming this is where Eric's coming from. He might be looking at a situation of like, actually, man, we've been trying to figure out how to do these sort of like, autonomous zones for a while. We've been trying to figure out how to like, make sure that you're legally separate. I mean, let's be for real. Like it's not a new thing. It's in Europe, right? You're sort of legally separate. You're somewhat insulated from the rest of whatever this collective community is called. You certainly don't recognize the laws of that particular country that you so happen to reside in. I don't know, maybe the UN thinks that's a good thing. And I assume that's where Eric's picking up on some of that stuff. But I hear what you're saying, Sean. I mean, like if the UN did outright openly endorse something like that, it would probably do as much to discredit their reputation as it would to actually build up the reputation of some of these communities. Eric said, power may grow from the barrel of a gun, but it's maintained by the shell of a bomb. Daniel's picking up on when I said the Reddit. I thought I was making a joke out of it. I guess it wasn't a good joke, but never heard people call it the Reddit. It's a funny thing. No. Anyways, it's just Reddit, by the way, for those that don't know. Let's see here. Who else said something? Steven places think it's turning into a different country. It's no longer Chaz. Yeah, they turned it into something totally different. Sean, let me play one last video here.
As communists are prone to do, they named something, and then 2 weeks later, it's not named that, and it was never named that. That's what Marxists... They've even got signs that say Chaz that people paid for and made. And I guess those are worthless now. But, like, typical Marxists, let's just rename stuff.
No, that's a good point, man. It really is. I mean, goodness gracious, dude. You have to look at any South American country, Central American country you want to. It doesn't necessarily matter. South American in particular, right? You talk about some type of revolution, then we're going to be socialist Democrats or a democratic socialist. That gradually turns into socialism, and then that outright about a month or two or a year later turns into just pure unadulterated support of communism. And that's how it goes. That's how the formula is written. That is literally how Marx wrote the formula. He said you get to communism by starting with capitalism and slowly burning through socialism. That is what is meant to happen. I don't think we should be surprised by that either. Let me play one last clip here, Sean, and then we'll end on something you brought to my attention here. And before I go on, realnewsradio.live is where you can find all the links to everything we're doing. YouTube channel here. We can find our Mixer channel. We're also on Minds, MIMDS.com. I put a link to the show notes up there. We also put YouTube up there and everything else. But realnewsradio.live is the easiest place to find all this stuff. I want to pause real quick before we go into this final video, Sean, as I'm pulling that up. It's not happening in America. It's not happening just in America alone. That's the heading there. Right-wing and anti-racism protester scuffle in Britain. Let me pause real quick in here and just say, yes, clearly everyone is aware of the Rashard Brooks story going on. It happened in Atlanta. I do have multiple links down there at the bottom of the show notes. It's just, honestly, man, if you don't know exactly what you're about to say on something like this, if you're not going to be razor sharp clear on the distinctions you're making, and if you're not willing to risk a little bit as to what's going on this early into a situation, I'm just telling you, man, facts are usually best just presented as facts alone. Punditry is not the time, may not be the time for it right now. Anyways, those links are down there at the bottom of the show notes, just so you guys know. But I'm sure everybody's seeing the same things we have. Shine, though, go ahead and pull up that YouTube video. It's about a minute or 2 minute long. Right-wing and anti-racism protester scuffle in Britain. Go ahead and play that. Yeah.
Anti-racism protesters rallied again around Britain on Saturday. Scuffles broke out in London as counter-demonstrators also came out to protect monuments targeted for their links to Britain's colonial history. Statues of historical figures, including Winston Churchill, Britain's World War II leader, whom protesters call a xenophobe, were boarded up to try and minimise trouble. In Trafalgar Square, police separated two groups of about 100 people each, one chanting Black Lives Matter the other racial slurs. Some groups jostled, tossed bottles and cans, and set off fireworks as riot police with dogs and horses lined up. At least one photographer was injured. Demonstrations have been taking place around the world over the death of African-American George Floyd in Minneapolis after a white policeman knelt on his neck. In Britain, debate is raging over monuments to those involved in the nation's imperialist past. Police said on Saturday that some people were bringing weapons to the London rallies. They imposed route restrictions on both groups and said rallies must end by 5 p.m. local time.
Now, Shine, maybe I'm missing something here, and admittedly so. I obviously do not have as clear of an understanding of the British political system as I do the American political system, nor does pretty much anybody that lives in the United States, right? Obvious. But I think you can see when the BBC is presenting on something, and this is the BBC, right? Tell me if I'm correct here as I'm pulling up the YouTube video. Yeah. The Reuters, UK Reuters, right? But nevertheless, any type of UK-based coverage, you can already see. Just sort of fast forward a couple years with American coverage, and this won't be so different here. It's fairly blatant as far as the bias. And this is Reuters. This is UK Reuters. So what is the bias I'm talking about? So it's right-wing and anti-racist. I mean, clearly, dude. Like, okay, so if I'm an alien coming from another country, and I read a headline like that with a tacit understanding of humans in general, so right-wings are racist, and there's a bunch of anti-racists that are fighting the racists. That's what you take up on that. So basically, there is no such thing as a right-wing individual that is not racist, and there's no such thing as an other individual that is racist. That's basically that's just the pure and simple what it is. And you heard in the thing, one of the statues that they're trying to tear down is Winston Churchill. And I don't know, dude. I thought this was about like slave owners or something. And I actually saw one of the comments in the comment section talking about like we need to get all these slave owners out. I was like, dude, I don't am I missing something? Churchill owned slaves? I know it sounds ridiculous, man. I'm honestly, maybe I just don't understand what's going on in the culture of the UK. I seriously am just missing something here. But again, the point I'm making is it's not just America. Whatever this divisive seed that has been sown, it's not just happening in America. And my real concern is we have 8 minutes left, call it 7 minutes, because Sean and I have to get to some work stuff. One of my real concerns, and I got to give a big shout out to my boy Shine here for turning me on to this article, is that we will lose faith in the institutions entirely. Now, some might say that's an okay thing, but that's what I'm saying, man. If you lose faith in the institutions entirely before we have a chance to reform them, then what are we promoting at that point? Here's the headline from the week. Voters won't accept the 2020 elections no matter who wins. Now, the first couple portions of this article go on to describe what happened in 2016. Now, we don't, for sake of time, we don't have much we can't go through all that, but it's basically, we all understand what happened. Everyone said that Trump was going to lose, and if he lost, he wasn't going to give it up willingly. Well, he won, and turns out the left didn't give it up willingly, because for 4 years, it has literally been the sky is falling, we're going to get him out of there. For literally, I mean, that should be an objective statement at this point, okay? For 4 years, it has been a relitigation of the 2016 election. The right has not had a chance to win and revel in that win, and the left has not had a chance to heal from a loss. That is the voluntarily giving over of power as it happens in the United States. Once you give over power, one half of the country has to have as a chance to heal. Now, frankly speaking, that may be the real problem in and of itself. One half of the country. It seems to be that's what Washington warned us most about, was a divisive partisan manner of two parties. Because then if you end up seeing it as just two wings of the same bird, well, we're all flying the same destination, man. It doesn't matter. Each wing is getting us there, just in slightly different manners, it looks like, but we're all arriving at the exact same end result. And you drive yourself insane, man. 4 years later, after 2016, Joe Biden is openly fantasizing about a scenario in which, man, this guy's got some words. Praetorian Guard dispatches the Sentence Emperor from his palace. Whether the former vice president remembers the similar and ultimately pointless discussions from 2016 is an open question, but not an especially important one. What matters more is the current barely concealed relish at the prospect of the current president being removed from the White House by force. Never mind the fact that the lurid speculations exist alongside equally lunatic assertions that we are living under a Trump-led military dictatorship. What they reveal about the American attitude toward presidents and their legitimacy is far more interesting than their internal coherence. There's little reason to think any of us are prepared to accept the results of the upcoming election, at least not unequivocally. This unwillingness has less to do with the candidates themselves or the circumstances surrounding individual elections than with this term here, since means almost religious type allegiance upon which presidential campaigns are waged in this country. They are not quadrennial contests between two parties happening every 4 years. They're not happening every 4 years between two parties offering competing sets of prudential solutions to the nation's problems. They are spiritual wars in which the righteousness of one side and the inquiry of the other are both blindly obvious to all persons of goodwill. I don't know. Maybe I'm misinterpreting. This guy's writing with some flowery language here, but it sounds like what he's saying is the more that each side treats this as a religion, the more divided we become. The more divided we become, the more we want to fight against the other side because we must have faith in something. As we lose faith in the institutions, we must replace that faith in something here. I think Zig is right, man. We have not become less religious. We become more religious. We just replace what the gods are. And if you are fighting as a zealot fights, if you're approaching this as a zealot would approach something, it would seem reasonable to think that the end of this, regardless of what the outcome might be, at least half of us are not going to accept it. That is the inevitable conclusion. That is the conclusion we are bound to have, unfortunately. And it's an unsustainable conclusion. This sense of sensationalism is unsustainable. And I don't know, man. Now might be the time that you would hear me say, like, hey, promote a libertarian candidate. And that's what I'd love to do. I don't even know what to do with that anymore, frankly. I don't. I'm going to be totally honest about that, man. Shine, I'll give you the last 3 minutes here to say something. But, bro, like in all sincerity, like, I follow a lot of libertarian pages. I follow a lot of libertarian party stuff, man. I would love to be a part of it, but I don't know if they would let me be a part of it. And if it's that difficult to get in, I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Maybe a multitude of other options elsewhere is what the best solution is. Or maybe no politics at all is the best solution. Maybe we go back to something I pitched back in the day, Shine, where we have blind legislation parties. Like, don't tell me who the sponsor is or the co-sponsor is until after it's passed. Let me just worry about the policy itself. Like, I don't care if it's a Bernie Sanders policy or a Trump policy. Let me just figure out the policy itself. Then we can have like national reveal parties afterwards, right? Like American Idol.
We have to pass the bill before we can find out what's in it or something like that.
I mean, at least who sponsored it. Pass the bill before we find out who sponsored it. But I'll give you the last 2 minutes here, man. Sorry about that.
The only comment I have on that story is something that we used to say on the radio all the time. Something important to remember about elections is we do them in lieu of war. They're not in lieu of going out to the club and having a party, or in lieu of going to have dinner at your grandma's house. They're in lieu of war. The reason we did elections was to keep like civil conflict that kept Europe crazy for a couple hundred years. You know, every other generation, a different family was taking power and whatever. They wanted to have a system where we could have the prosperity and not have war all the time. So the importance of people believing in those elections is a matter of life and death. So we shouldn't do things that make people have less faith in elections, because the alternatives to elections, and really no one's just going to decide no elections. Like you said, it's more likely there will be an election, people won't believe it, then you have problems, and there will be no time to do anything about it. But it's important as we talk about elections to remember that they keep us safe. When people believe in them, they keep bad things from happening. So that's all I got to say on that.
On the way out here, Eric said, we need a libertarian answer. Honestly, I completely agree. I wish Joe Jorgensen gets in, but I doubt it will happen, especially not now. People are doubling down in the full fear of the other guy. 100%, man. Steven said, what's a candidate anymore? A villain in works. Goodness gracious. And Jonathan said, people that refuse to accept the outcome of elections don't understand that this is how we've done elections for going on 300 years. Hey, man, good show today. Really appreciate the comments by y'all. RealNewsRadio.live. We got to hit this meeting coming up here. But I love y'all, seriously and sincerely. I don't even know what that last word was, man. My name is Mr. Henry. David Sean Thompson over there, signing off for both of us. Love y'all. See you tomorrow.
Starting this Friday on Real News Radio, we expand our programming to include a new show, The Veteran Next Door. Quality edutainment like you've never heard it before. Stories of real veterans told by the veterans themselves and hosted by Knoxville resident Randy Baxter. Tune in this Friday at 12 p.m. for The Veteran Next Door on Real News Radio, broadcasting from realnewsradio.live.